Hi, my name is Allison Kearns, and the topic I will be covering for my oral presentation is tourism and disasters. On the face of it, tourism and disasters don't seem to have much in common. Tourism is related to enjoyment, relaxation, and entertainment. According to a typological model, tourists rank security and comfort as the essentials for a vacation destination, which are certainly not two characteristics that come to mind when thinking about disasters. But when you look past that initial difference, you will realize that tourism is quite susceptible to disasters. Most destinations that people venture to are exotic locations near natural features like oceans, mountains, forests, and more. All of these areas have a very high risk for a range of hazards which could affect those attractions, such as hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, avalanches, flooding, fire, and more. In addition to the climatological and geologic hazards, there are man-made incidents like hazmat spills, plane crashes, trail derailments, and even terrorism that could affect tourist spots. These destinations for tourism are some of the most vulnerable places because of the unwillingness to accept the risk in their locations. With that being said, it is quite obvious that tourism and disasters have a strong connection that can be evaluated. For this presentation, I was looking into different ways to examine this relationship. Tourism and disasters can be looked at with disaster planning, mitigation opportunities, and evacuations, just to name a few, all of which are critical. Another large factor of disasters in tourism is economic loss, which can be extremely significant. In Florida alone, tourism is the largest sector of the state's economy. With the enjoyable climate, beaches, nature, and amusement parks, Florida has approximately 60 million tourists visit every year, the most annual visitors than any other state in the country. Nearly half of those visitors come specifically for the beaches and nearby communities. They spend more than $20 billion a year. This is an enormous sector of the Florida economy. If a disaster were to occur in Florida, the effects on its tourism, either from inability to travel to a location, enjoyment of time spent there, or even the perception of safety and comfort of a location, would be detrimental to the economy in Florida. This is exactly what happened just a few years ago. In 2010, the United States' worst environmental disaster made a huge impact on tourism along the Gulf Coast, including Florida. On April 20th, 2010, the BP Macondo 252 oil well in the Gulf of Mexico blew out, which was the first crude oil blowout in more than 30 years and also the first in water that was over 4,000 feet deep. The entire drilling rig, Deepwater Horizon, was engulfed in flames and 11 people passed away. 2 days later, the drilling rig sank and oil continued to spew out underwater. For 87 days, the oil flowed into the ocean unchecked, and estimates close to 5 million barrels, which is 200 million gallons, of crude oil had polluted the Gulf of Mexico. Over 2,500 square miles of this beautiful ocean were contaminated, and 90,000 square miles of the Gulf was closed to fishing. The media did a large amount of coverage for this event, and many beaches, nearby hotels, restaurants, and stores suffered a significant loss. An estimate of approximately $23 billion in economic losses for a 3-year period after the spill was calculated. Efforts were made to bring tourists back to Florida beaches, as even the unaffected Atlantic coast of Florida was suffering losses. Hotels and other tourist locations made significant cuts to prices and added in free incentives. Plus, BP began a campaign to promote the clean beaches of the Gulf Coast. It took over a year for tourism rates along the beaches in Florida to reach a normal level. Yet, the long-term trends have yet to be determined because this event was relatively recent and the long-term environmental effects of a spill of this size are not well known. BP has agreed to give $20 billion in compensation losses to the states along the Gulf Coast, and massive campaigns are taking place to promote tourism in those Gulf states. However, perception is the biggest challenge according to BP Oil. The effects of this massive disaster are yet to be entirely determined. From this drastic example, we can really see how disasters can strongly affect tourism and the necessity to examine the relationship between the two and implement strong disaster planning. This is especially true for the state of Florida with its vulnerability to disasters and enormous reliance on tourism. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thanks for listening.